Good afternoon, folks, and welcome to today's Nephilim webinar, Finding Your Focus, as presented by Kate Tompkins. Kate worked in libraries across Northeast Florida starting at age 15 for the Alachua County Library. From there, she went on to work for the St. Johns County School District, as well as Florida State College at Jacksonville. And Kate is now a librarian in North Carolina, and though she misses her Florida library colleagues dearly, she does not miss the heat and hurricanes. So folks, no further ado from me. Here we go with today's presenter, Kate Tompkins.
All right, thank you so much, Raymond. Hello, everybody. So we have a lot to cover. We're going to jump right in. I want to kind of expand on where Raymond started. So I started at age 15 at the public library, as so many of us do. I needed those volunteer hours, and I just never left the library. So some of you know me personally, some of you don't. So I started there at Alachua County in Gainesville at my local neighborhood library. I got my bachelor's degree in journalism from the University of Florida. And then I went on to get my master's degree from FSU. And it's funny, so all this came to a head here now that I've moved to North Carolina and I have a job at UNC Chapel Hill as their journalism librarian. How lucky am I? So you don't see jobs like that often in life where it's just such a perfect match of your skill set. And that's been wonderful to bring that background and talk to the students about my time in the newsroom and, getting the bachelor's degree in journalism and the field experience I had there. And then, moving on to the library, and now I get to just do it all. So I'm really lucky in that way. So I'm pursuing my dreams here. I've really focused now with this big move from Florida. I had never lived anywhere outside of Florida until now. So I've really been focusing on, I wanted to write a book. So I finished the manuscript and I've been sending it off to editors, and I wanted to do these webinars for Nephilim, and I'm finally doing them. So and a lot of what we're going to talk about today is that dreaming big, having big goals, and how you can achieve them. And nothing is too big or too grandiose or even too silly if you feel like it is. It's not. Okay, your goals are real things that you can really do, and we're going to talk about that today. And please, that's my email. If you have questions, or if we run out of time, or if you want to talk one-on-one, that's my email down there at the bottom of the bookish, ltd@gmail.com. So also, that's all kind of the resume stuff, but also on a personal note, this is a little bit about who I am, and this might explain why this was a webinar I wanted to do. So if you're familiar with the Enneagram, I'm a 1. If you've done any Linda Bruno trainings, I'm a perfect melancholy. I'm also a gifted child. I was in the International Baccalaureate program, type A, only child, perfectionist, and someone who hates wasting time. So I don't know if you can relate to any of those, but I was highly strung there for a while. It might be you, it might be someone you know, but I was just always running around. I always felt like I had to achieve big things. If I wasn't working, I was wasting my time. So I had that internal pressure on myself. I'm one of those people. So if you can relate, I am getting better. I'm learning to kind of find my focus, not run around like a chicken with my head cut off, really focus on the one thing and do it well. So that's a little bit about me, and hopefully if you don't relate to that, you know someone who does, and maybe this webinar will help you help them. So really what brought me here today is a couple of things. One, way back when I was at the school library, my principal gave me this wonderful compliment that stuck with me, and he said, you could teach a class in time management. And which is funny because I was there like 10, 12 hours a day, when I'm thinking, well, not really, because I'm here all the time. That's how I get it all done. But that was such a nice compliment. And I am one of those people that hate wasting time. Time is our most valuable asset, I feel. So I do try to pack things in. I do try to use my time wisely. So I think that's part of the appeal of these books we're going to talk about today. That's what sort of attracted me to reading those books to begin with. But really, this part from Essentialism, I'm going to read a little section here from one of the books we're covering today. And it was a CEO of Lehman Brothers. And this was her life. See if this resonates with you, because this was definitely me. So she said, she's talking about, how she didn't mean to devote herself to her job. She says, First, I spent a half hour on Sunday organizing my email, to-do list, and calendar to make Monday morning easier. Then I was working a few hours on Sunday, then all day. My boundaries slipped away until work was all that was left. And that's really where I was when the pandemic started. I was working all the time. I would stay at work late. I'd get there early. Then I'd go home with my laptop and continue working. I remember vividly a teacher emailing me something, and I got right on it and I made the change. I emailed her back. And she even said, Kate, I didn't really expect you to do this right now. You know, it's okay. It's the weekend or it's the evening, or, you know, please, like, it's okay. Enjoy yourself, enjoy your personal time. You don't have to do this. But that's who I was. I felt like my work was really my identity, and I couldn't separate the two. And then COVID happened. We had the pandemic, and I was still at the school library at the time. And so that was a lot. I had teachers inundating me with questions. We had to pivot quickly to being online. So they all needed help with that. And then the students needed help, and the parents needed help. And the emails were just never ending, and the instant messages and the phone calls when I was there at work. And it was a lot. And so that's when I really said, you know what, I'm going to drive myself crazy. This is just not the way to live. And that's where I really set that boundary. I took my email off my phone. That was big. I did not check emails once I got home. And that was a transition for people, but you know what? People will get used to that. And we'll talk about that, how to draw these boundaries for what's best for you. And at first, people might sort of balk and struggle, but they'll learn to adapt. But that's really where I had my shift. And ever since then, I've been good about, I don't check my email at home. I don't, you know, I still even had teachers would like text me, you know, like Sunday night with a question. And honestly, you all, at one point I did change my phone number because it was just, what else could I do? I guess I could have blocked people, but you know, but it can get out of hand. I think, you know, you all know that there are no boundaries if you don't draw them, and people are more than happy to walk all over them. So that's really kind of my background. So this webinar has been in the works for years. It's been in the back of my mind. And again, if you follow Linda Bruno, if you've been to her training, she's so inspirational to me. And so a lot of this is inspired by the work she does too. So this quote is another one that stuck out to me. This is from the book, The One Thing. And this is the way I was. I don't know if you can relate to this. This is, I thought the way to success was just getting myself super tightly wound and just flying out the door on fire and just going crazy until you just burn out. And I thought, well, if I'm not doing that, I'm not working. All right. If I'm not freaking out, if I'm not stressed out, I'm not really working. So really my hopes for you, you know, I know it's a lot right now at the public library, at school libraries, academic libraries. These are public facing jobs. We are serving the public. We tend to be very kind people, right? Librarians were known for being so helpful, and we want to help everybody. That's part of our identity. And I think we have a hard time thinking otherwise and saying no and setting a boundary, and we feel like we're hurting people's feelings and we're not being helpful. And we put the needs of others first. You know, we get pulled in a lot of different directions, and we're trying to please everybody. But I really want to focus today on not sacrificing your goals for other people. You know, not putting the work that they're putting on you before your own, really focusing on what you want to achieve and making time for that, and saying no sometimes. And we'll talk about how to say no in a nice way. These are the books that I'm going to be referencing today. So of course, highly recommended for me. I absolutely love these books. Essentialism is probably my favorite, but they're all fantastic and they all really complement each other. So really today's just like a highlight reel from these books. So I would recommend you read them. They can help with your work life and your personal life. They complement each other nicely. And yeah, so that's what we'll be talking about today. So enough about me for a moment. I want to hear what brought you here. So if you don't mind, and I figured this way it's anonymous, you don't have to put in the chat really what you're struggling with, but if you're able to, please go to minty.com and use that code 78166295. And if you feel comfortable, sharing what brought you here today. What is your biggest challenge at work? And probably, honestly, it might be all of these, but try to pick the one that is the biggest challenge for you right now. Is it too many tasks? Is it not? Yes, not enough support. I feel like, again, even now in my new role, we just never have enough money. We never have enough staff. That's just the way it is. And then not enjoying what you do. I know that's tough. A lot of us start out and it's like, this is my dream job and I absolutely love this. But then sometimes, unfortunately, you don't enjoy what you do anymore because, you get pulled in so many different directions, or you end up, you take the job thinking it's going to be one thing and it's not, so I definitely understand that as well. Yes, and that work-life balance. They say they want us to have that, right? they put all this stuff on us, but we want you to have that work-life balance. Like, okay. Sometimes you have to make it on your own. They say they do. And not enough support staff. Looks like the most. Yep. Never enough. Never enough. We just hired 2 more people here on my team, and it's still not enough, So I absolutely understand that. Okay, we'll check back in on that in a little bit, but I want to keep going. So thank you for sharing that with me. So let's get into it. So this was sort of my typical day. I wonder if you can relate to this. This is just sort of a visualization of what can happen. You come into work and you know what you want to do, right? I have my to-do list. I know my schedule. If you're at a public library, you have your desk hours, you know that. And then, in your off desk hours, you have your projects. So you have this great plan in your mind. And then your coworker pops in and they're having a problem and they need help. And then you read this email, your supervisor said that they have something really urgent that they need you to do that sort of trumps what you need to do. Or you get stuck talking to that person. That might be a patron, that might be a coworker, that might be a manager. But we have those people in our lives, that person, there goes 30 minutes of your day, right? Just chit-chatting about whatever. You have to unjam the printer. Oh my gosh, like all the equipment, I always get sucked into that. Like somehow we're always like the tech people as well. So you get pulled in all these different directions and it's 5 o'clock and forget your to-do list. I mean, my gosh, it's like you barely made a dent, or you might have even had to add 5 more things at the end of the day. So the day just gets away from you. And I think this happens to us a lot. Again, with these public serving, public facing jobs, it is so hard not to let this happen. And I absolutely love this quote. If you don't prioritize your life, I promise you, yes, someone else will. Whether that's friends, family, coworkers, managers, if you don't set your priorities, someone else will be happy to do that for you. Does this ring any bells for anybody? Can anyone relate to this? How many times in your life have you responded with a yes without really thinking about it? You're just like, oh, sure, maybe it's a friend or a colleague that you really like, and you commit to it, and then you think, oh my gosh. Then you show up and you're like, what? Why did I do this? What made me sign up for this? Why am I here? Are you a people pleaser? A lot of us, I think, are. We struggle with that. We were like that as children, and we've just kept going. We don't want to hurt people's feelings. We don't want conflict. I hate conflict. But then sometimes you say yes, and it leads to more conflict because then you're resentful, So sometimes you get stretched too thin. This second to last one, do you ever feel busy but not productive? Yes. I was always so busy, but what was I really doing, right? Sometimes we're so running around and then we think, what am I even really doing? Am I getting anything really accomplished? And the same with the last one, are you always in motion but not getting anywhere? I'm always running from thing to thing, meeting to meeting, place to place, but really what at the end of the day have I accomplished? Now they talk about one of the books, this paradox of success. And I thought some of you might relate to this as well, especially for those of you maybe who feel like you don't enjoy your work anymore. You start out and you know what you're there for. I took this job, I had a goal, I thought I knew what it was going to entail, and I get really good at that. And then I'm known as the go-to person. Oh, go to Kate. She is always around, she knows everything, or she'll find out, and she's always helpful. And for a minute there, you feel good. Like, hey, I'm in demand, I'm needed, people depend on me. I love that. You get addicted to that feeling. But then you start getting pulled in a million different directions and you're getting spread thinner and thinner. And really what you started out wanting to do, you lose. Your goals, your priorities just get pushed to the side and you're running around just doing all different kinds of things for everybody because you want to be needed and you like to be helpful. But then it's like, what am I even doing? This was not the job I thought it would be. I'm not using my time and my talents the way I should be, and I've really lost, my focus here. So this is a trap that I think a lot of us can get caught in. So if this is helpful to you all, this was some of the best professional advice I ever received. It was from, if you're familiar with FAME, the Florida Association of Media and Education. We had Lucia Miller was one of our past FAME presidents, and I met her at just a workshop. I don't think she was the FAME president at the time. I think she was going to be maybe the next year. But we were just sitting next to each other at a workshop, and she was a school librarian, I was a school librarian, and we're chit-chatting. And I'd only been in the school maybe then, gosh, a couple of years. I was relatively new. And she explained to me how she organized her year. And so you don't have to be in a school library for this to work. This can be any kind of library setting. But really, you're going to look at your big sort of silos of work, your big areas of focus that you do year to year, quarter to quarter, however you want to separate it. So in my example here, I kind of looked at my typical workload, the things that really I focused on from year to year. And her suggestion was you take them all, but then rank them. So instead of trying to do all 4 or 5 of these equally well, I'm going to put my focus on one and put a lot of energy into that, and then everything else will fall behind that. So, you might look at your school year, your year, and for me, it was like, okay, well, maybe our students really, their reading scores were down. So maybe this year, I'm going to put a lot of my focus on literacy instruction. I'm going to get into those classrooms. I'm going to work with the English and reading teachers, and I'm going to really focus on that. But of course, in the background, I'm still doing, your Florida Teen Reads, your Battle of the Books. You're still doing your reading promotion. I was still one of the technology trainers, so I still would do that. But my real big focus was that literacy instruction. So if that helps you, that really helped me. I would look at everything I did. I would separate it into different areas and then rank them and then put more eggs in that one basket and give a little less attention to the others. So if that helps you, that really helped me. I know saying top priority, they talk in one of the books about how there is no such thing. We've really ruined the definition of priority now. The top priorities, there's no such thing. But for ease of understanding, I was trying to say your top priority. But just try to think of what you do, rank them, and focus on your most important thing. And I love this quote. If you chase 2 rabbits, you will not catch either one. So how do you find and focus on that one thing? You look at your coworkers, you look at successful people, and you might think to yourself, well, if we all have 8 hours in a workday, why do they get more done than I do? Why are they on all these committees or winning awards or whatever? Why are they doing all this and I'm not? So we all think, I love a full calendar, I love a full schedule, right? I love a to-do list. But really, again, are we doing anything, or are we just in motion? So that's what you need to think about. I love a full calendar, but what is my calendar full of? Am I just running around without a focus? So you really have to think and focus on your one thing. So they say your secret is to go big and then go small. So when I say go big, I mean shoot for the stars, aim high. What is your big goal? And then what you're going to do is break it down, and your small is going to tell you what you need to do to get there. So this is a visual representation of when you're spread out too thin. This is from Essentialism. So if you look at this, you see if my energy is spread all over into these different areas, I have 10 different things I'm trying to do equally well, I'm not really getting anywhere. The arrows are pretty short. They're kind of all over the place. But if I put all my energy into one thing, look at the progress I make. So that's just a visual representation of that idea of putting all that energy, all those eggs into that one basket, and you're going to get further than you're going to be when you're trying to do all the little things equally well. So when you're thinking of breaking this down and how do I even start, these are some common, I think, lies that we believe and we're told that we have to get rid of. We have to move past this thinking in order to find success. So everything does not matter equally. It is just not. We have way too many choices, way too many things thrown at us. We can't put equal importance on everything. That is just not the way to do it. A lot of us think we're very good at multitasking, me included. I think I'm a professional multitasker. You really can't. You can't do it well. You can do it, but it might not be really successful. We'll talk about this idea of a disciplined life. And there's just, discipline is sort of one of those things that we're not going to rely on discipline. Don't think that's the way it's going to be. Willpower is not always on will call. We think that like, oh, if I just put my mind to it, I can do this. Not really. Willpower is going to come and go, as same as discipline is going to come and go. The idea of a balanced life, and you can have it all. You can't have it all. You just can't. There's just no way. We have to be realistic about that. And this idea of big is bad. Big is not bad. We want you to think big and have big goals and dreams. So thinking of everything matters equally. When everything feels urgent, everything seems equal. But you need to figure out what is really important to you, day to day, week to week, month to month, year to year, what is really important to you. Achievers always work from a clear sense of priority. They know where they're going. They're not just getting work thrown at them and trying to do it all well. They have a focus and they know what they're focusing on, and they have that compass, that roadmap to where they want to go. Again, this idea of activity, right? We're not always being productive. Busy doesn't mean we're actually doing anything. We're just running around sometimes looking busy and feeling important, but we're not really getting anything done. And again, things don't matter equally. Success is found in doing what matters most. So from the essentialist point of view, in essentialism, he uses this idea of a messy closet. So you want to visualize your life and your career like a messy closet. And we're going to clean it out and we're going to organize it and we're going to keep it that way. So we're going to first explore and evaluate. We're going to look around our lives and we're going to discern the trivial many, and there's a lot of trivial minis, from the vital few. We need to take a broad view and figure out what is important and what's not. Next, we're going to eliminate the trivial many. We're going to cut them out. The best we can, we're going to get rid of that stuff. And then execute, we're going to remove obstacles and making execution effortless. So we are going to look at this closet. We're going to go through, I've not worn that sweater in years. These pants don't fit me anymore. We're going to get rid of them and we're going to focus on what we need to. The idea of multitasking, I love this quote. It's hard. It's a hard pill to swallow, but I love it. Multitasking is merely the opportunity to screw up more than one thing at a time. And it's so true. We can walk and talk, we can like chew gum and drive or whatever, but you can't do two things well. Things that really need your full attention, you need to give them your full attention. We can do little tasks, multitasking well, but we really can't succeed trying to do many things at once. So this idea of discipline, instead of trying to be a disciplined person, you really want to focus on your positive habits and rely on them. So in Atomic Habits, he really gets into this idea of building your habits. And success is sequential, not simultaneous. So you almost want to visualize dominoes. And that one good habit is that first domino that then can knock over all the rest of them. So you want to focus on one thing at a time, build that habit, and then watch the success from there. Give your routines and habits enough time to stick to. A lot of times we try to be disciplined, we try to do the right thing, and then it's not really working and we move on to the next thing. But really give yourself time. You know, you've heard like it takes 10,000 hours to master something, or it takes, 90 days, 60 days to build a habit or whatever. Give yourself time to develop those routines and habits and give them time to stick. With that idea of looking at your closet, find those obstacles in your day and in your life holding you back and do your best to remove them from your life. I like this idea of don't major in minor activities. Do not spend a lot of your time and attention on the trivial many. Look at them, identify them, remove them. Don't get bogged down in them. Now, this next one I'm so guilty of. Make sure you're not always just planning in order to delay failure. Instead, make sure you're practicing. So what does that look like? So for me, I'm so guilty of this. Like, let's say I want to learn violin. I don't know. I played violin as a kid. Maybe I want to pick up violin again. Well, so maybe I'll like look on YouTube and like watch videos of people playing violin, and maybe I'll like shop online to look at violins. And I'll read about violin and like, but I'm not doing anything. I'm just sort of like looking and thinking, but I'm not making any progress. I'm not practicing violin. The best thing I could do is just go buy it and start practicing. So sometimes we're so afraid of failure that we'll do anything to feel like we're doing something. Like, well, I'm gonna learn violin, and I'm reading about it, I'm thinking about it, but I'm not really doing anything. So I think a lot of us can be those type A perfectionists, and we are afraid of failure. Don't let that hold you back. Remember that done is better than perfect. I love that quote because we get bogged down and we want it to be just right and just perfect, but sometimes in life we just got to get it done. This idea of willpower as a renewable resource. The good thing is we can get more when it runs out, and it will run out. A lot of the times we're like freshest in the morning, right? Maybe that's your best time. And then around lunchtime, you're hungry and you're tired. Maybe you didn't have that second cup of coffee, and we're sort of running out of steam. They talk about this idea of your default settings. When our willpower runs out, we're going to fall back to our default settings. But some of us have good default settings and some of us have bad default settings. So maybe my default setting, if I'm stressed, I want to sit on the couch and I want to eat a bag of potato chips. Well, that's not great, right? That's not good for me. That's not good for my health. But maybe some of us, our default setting is when I'm stressed out, I go for a run. I get outside, I want fresh air, I want to move, I want to be active. That's a great default setting. And if that's you, oh my gosh, I'm so jealous. I love that. Mine is not good. So when your willpower runs out, you're going to go back to those default settings. And for some of us, they are just not good. So try to do your most important work early before your willpower runs out. And a lot of us, that is that morning block. Try to schedule your most important things when you have that energy to do it. I know, especially at the public library, you have the desk schedule. You're at the whim of the schedule and the staff and the programs. But when you can, try to schedule your strongest, your best work, when you have most willpower to do so. But the good thing is it is renewable with rest, downtime, and fuel, which is food. So sometimes after lunch, you can get that second boost. So just be cognizant of that and give yourself grace with that. Know that, around lunchtime, or around that mid-afternoon slump, I'm just not going to be in the best place to do my best deep work, and just work around that. So this idea of balance, right? There is just no such thing. I think we know that better now, but I think for a long time we were told this work-life balance, or balance even within our workday. It's just not the way it is. Sometimes you're going to have to get out of balance, and that is okay. So in this particular graphic, I'll try to explain these lines. So in the one thing, he talks about how you have to get out of balance sometimes to get things done. So he says extraordinary results require lots of your time and focus. So if we're looking at the work line, the black line there, he talks about how sometimes at work we'll have a big project and we have to focus a lot of attention on that big project. And all of our other tasks are going to slide down to the side, and that's okay. That is the way it has to be. I have this big presentation, in 2 weeks. So for the next 2 weeks, 90% of my attention is going to be on that presentation, that project. And all my other things are going to go to the side. That's okay. So for a while, our line's going to be out of whack. And then once that presentation's over, I can kind of go back to some balance. But sometimes in life and work, you're going to have to go out of balance. This red line of life is a little more balanced. That is because he says in our personal life, you can't go out of balance too long because it's personal life. You have personal relationships. You have friends, family, spouses, partners. You don't want that to suffer too much. At work, it's okay because that's just the nature of the beast. Sometimes we are going to have to devote more time and attention to one project and everything else can slide to the side. In life, you really can't play that game because that can really hurt you in your personal relationships. So to help break that down into a visual, it's this idea of two buckets. So what you want to do is you want to picture your personal life in one bucket and your work life in the other. Within those two buckets, you're going to counterbalance your work life in the one. So I have a big project, a big presentation. I'm going to go out of whack with everything else, but my personal life is not suffering. I'm not bringing that project home. When I get home, I'm still spending time with my spouse and my children. But when I'm at work, I'm out of whack. That's okay. My personal is okay. My bucket is balanced. So again, it's okay to be out of balance at work for long times. You can go long and far, but not in your personal life. So really try to separate the two the best you can because you don't want those personal relationships to suffer. And last, this idea of going big. So I love this idea of what you build today is either going to empower you or restrict you tomorrow. So we're thinking of our future self. We want to think big, act big, and succeed big, and that's okay. Don't feel embarrassed. Don't feel like you can't achieve big things. You absolutely can. You cannot fear failure. Again, the best is the enemy of the good. We get so hung up as perfectionists, as type A's, as overachievers, that we want our thing to be perfect. But we can't live life like that. There is no such thing as perfect. And the minute you realize that, it just frees you up. Nothing is perfect. That's okay. We want it to be good. We want it to be the best we can, but there is no perfect. And I like this idea at the end to kind of reframe this. Instead of thinking of what do I have to give up in life to succeed, think, what do I want to go big on? And think of it in an empowering way. I want to achieve this. I want to go big on this. And that will make you feel better about it. Don't think about what you have to give up. Think about what you want to achieve and focus on that. And again, this is from Gary Keller, who co-wrote The One Thing. And again, another one that I related to and I thought you all might like too. So we overthink, overplan, and overanalyze our careers, our businesses, and our lives. That long hours are neither virtuous nor healthy, and that we usually succeed in spite of most of what we do, not because of it. I discovered that we can't manage time and that the key to success isn't in all the things we do, but in the handful of things we do well. So I love this idea of that, like, no, we're doing well in spite of what we do. We're running around trying to put out all these fires, but we're still succeeding in spite of that, not because of it. We think we're doing the right thing, but oftentimes we're not. So it's really in the things that you do well. So to focus in on this idea of this one thing that you want to focus on, you can ask yourself this question over and over again. What's the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? And this question, this focusing question, can help lead to that big one thing. So if you're struggling with that, this can help figure that out. What is my big picture questions? What is the one big thing I want to focus on? And then it can also help with your small focus ones. What do I need to do right now to achieve that goal? So if you keep asking yourself this over and over again, you are forced to line up your priorities. It forces you to figure out your tasks and really what's important and what can wait for later. By making one decision now, you can eliminate 1,000 decisions later. So it's that idea of that domino again. We're picking the right one domino that will knock the rest of them down. So your big picture question, your one thing, what is that vision? What is that goal? What direction am I going in? What do I want to do? Do I want to go back and get my degree? Do I want to be a branch manager? Do I want to be a director? What is the big goal in life? And then our small focus question is going to be, what's my one thing right now? And that one thing is going to keep you focused and attentive to those immediate needs that will help you figure out how to manage your day to day. And this explains it a little more. So your big one thing is your purpose, and your small one thing is the priority you take action on to achieve it. So that big one thing is the vision and direction. That purpose becomes your compass that is going to drive your actions. And your purpose is really what you want your life to be about more than any other thing. And sometimes in life, there can be many things over time. Each year, that big thing might change. But at any moment in time, there can be only one thing. And you might be a little skeptical and think, Kate, I don't know that I could pick one thing. I have a lot of different goals. I have a lot of different things going on. But I want you to really dig deep, and you're going to find there's always something that matters the most to you. We might have a few priorities, a few things we want to focus on and achieve, but if you really take time and sit with yourself, you'll really find that there is one thing that's always going to bubble to the top that matters the most to you more than anything else. And this is from one of the books. This is from The One Thing. And he has this graphic, this visual of looking at your someday goal, and then he goes all the way down to like right now. And I actually wrote this on the whiteboard in my office. I just literally wrote the whole thing, and I had my big someday goal. And then I looked from 5 years to 1 year to month to week to day to right now. And I would always go back and think, what am I doing right now? And is that thing that I'm doing right now getting me closer to that someday goal? You know, am I wasting time, or is what I'm doing going to get me there? So this really helped me to just have posted in my office. And maybe that will help you just have that daily visual reminder, like, what am I doing? Am I getting caught up and bogged down in some minutia, or am I staying focused on what I want to do? If you live with purpose, you'll know where you want to go. Live by priority, and you'll know what to do to get there. So think of that big thing, and then you're going to think of your small things that are going to take you to get there. So I want to reflect. I've been talking a lot to you. I want you to take a moment and really do this, really think about one thing you want your life to be about more than anything else. You're not going to have to share this. This is just for you. Take a moment and reflect on that. And even better, write it down. Write it down on your planner, write it down on a piece of paper, write it down on your whiteboard in your office, wherever you're at. Write it down and think about how you'd like to accomplish it and how you would do it. What does that look like? What is my big someday goal? How am I going to get there? So really take a moment and think about that, and then we'll kind of start into the last part of the presentation. Okay, so while you're sort of wrapping up your thoughts there, you're visualizing your goals. I love this quote to help you sort of think about this. People do not decide their futures, they decide their habits, and their habits decide their future. So when we're thinking about this big someday goal, let's take a look at our little day-to-day activities. So those little small wins really add up, right? What is the biggest form of human motivation? It's progress, of course, it's success. I'm trying to lose weight. I see the scale go down. Fantastic. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. The scale went up. Well, forget that. I'm not going to go to the gym. I'm just going to eat a burrito, right? Whatever. So seeing that success is really the way you're going to be motivated. Those wins create that momentum. I want to keep going, And if I succeed, I know I can keep going. I'm going to believe in myself. What is rewarded is repeated, of course. What is punished is avoided, right? If I'm doing well, I'm going to keep going. When you're looking at this and you're looking at these small wins, they have this idea of minimum viable progress. So you can think and ask yourself, what is the smallest amount of progress I can make that will be useful and valuable to the essential task I'm trying to get done? So what's the little tiniest thing, that little domino again? What is the tiniest thing I can do that will knock over the rest of those dominoes and lead to my success? You can start early and small, or start late and big. Think back to when you were in school and you had that paper due. I know I have a month to write this paper, and I can start now. I can go to the library, I can get my books, I can get my resources and start pulling my citations or I can wait till the night before and like spend all night doing it and go big. So really start early and small. Make your progress visible if you can. It's nice to see visible progress. I know for like our kids, we might have the calendars with like happy faces, they cleaned their room, but why can't you do that for yourself? Make yourself a calendar that only you can see and do little check marks if you've done something good today. You've had a win. It's this idea of don't break the chain. If I mark in my planner or my personal calendar every day that I achieved something that I needed to do, every day I met my goal for the day, my small win, make a mark. And when I look at that calendar and see that chain of all those check marks or stars, I don't want to break the chain. I'm on this great winning streak, right? I don't want one day to mess up this big 30-day chain of progress. So sometimes that visualization can really help you just to see the wins and successes you've made, and you don't want to ruin that. And really, success is a result of daily habits, not those big once-in-a-lifetime transformations, right? If we're really being honest, success is really what we do on the day-to-day, not, that big once-in-a-lifetime win. This is another visual that helps imagine this. So we can either force a big win here, and we put all this energy into moving this big box, or we have these little small wins that we can just boop, 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 jump right up. Yay, we're done. Which looks better? I'd way rather jump up the little boxes than try to push that one big one. Habits. So now this might make some of you bristle. Some of you might like habits and routines a little more than others. I am a creature of habit. I love habits and routines, but I also know people who hate habits and routines. But really, habits can help you achieve success. And what you really want to do is reduce the friction of good habits and increase the friction around bad ones. Habits have to be enjoyable if they're going to stick. So we want to make the good things as easy as possible. We want to automate our days as much as possible. And we want to make the bad things as hard as possible so we aren't inclined to do them. So building habits now, building good habits now will give you more freedom in the future. And again, that idea of habit stacking. So I do one good thing and I can build on that. So the idea of habit stacking would be, let's say, in the morning before work, I have my cup of coffee, and while my coffee or tea is brewing, I sit and I meditate for 1 minute. I want to start my day off on a good note. I want to be calm and collected. So while the coffee brews, I meditate. Or maybe every day after lunch, as soon as I, put my lunch bag away, I go take a walk around the building, or I go take a walk around the block. So you build this habit stacking of, or I close my laptop, and that's my time to then catch up with my coworkers for the day before I go home. So you're building these good habits and you're stacking them together to build a full routine of all these good habits that make your day easier. You also want to find those bad habits and call them out. Now, you don't have to call them out to your coworkers or your friends. You don't have to shout out like, I'm scrolling on my phone on Instagram again, I'm wasting time. But to yourself, you might want to do that. We get addicted to like checking our phones in between things, like the website's loading and like, oh, I'm just gonna scroll real fast. So you can sort of call out to yourself like, hey, I'm scrolling on Instagram. This isn't getting me to my goals. This is just wasting time. And then just kind of, it helps to call it out and just move on. Don't beat yourself up about it, but just call it out. I see what I'm doing and I need to move on and get back on track. And also plan your next day before you leave. I love the idea of this. Like before I leave, I look at my planner, I look at my calendar for the next day. I have my day in my mind of what I need to do. I have my things laid out on my desk. I pack everything away, and that just makes my next morning so much smoother. So anything you can do to automate your life, I believe in that. I love that. I even set out my outfits for the week. Okay, that's how far I go, but it's one less thing I have to think about in the morning, and it frees up that mental energy for me to focus on something else. So whenever you can do that, I would encourage you, because it's just going to save you time later. And it's this idea of your good habits are going to cost you in the present, and the cost of your bad habits are in the future. So we want to always be helping our future self. When we're making these habits, we really need to make sure that these really gel and jive with who we are. You know, if we try to do these big behavior changes that don't really suit us, it's going to be harder to stick. So the ultimate form of this intrinsic motivation is this idea of I'm the type of person who is this, rather than I'm the type of person who wants this. It has to be a full identity change. And in the book, they talk about this example of I'm trying to quit smoking. So let's say there's two people, they're both offered a cigarette. One person says, oh, no, thank you, I'm not a smoker. And the other person says, oh, no, thank you, I'm trying to quit smoking, right? So which is going to work better? If it's my identity, well, I don't smoke, so I don't even want one, right? So it's really making it part of who you are, and these good habits are going to stick when they become part of your identity. Now, sometimes, you know, talking about this idea of time is our most valuable asset, these little thieves of productivity come in. We've built our good habits, we've built our routines, we have our goals, but life gets in the way. So these are the big four thieves of our productivity. The inability to say no. And I'm going to give you some examples of how to say no. I think it'll be very helpful for us. The fear of chaos. Chaos is inevitable, but we can handle it. Our poor health habits can get in the way, and an environment that doesn't support your goals. So again, this idea of, you know, it's not that work more hours, it's getting more done in the hours they work. So how do we protect our time? So remember, when you say yes to something, think about what you're saying no to. You have to remember, you have to think about, is this the very most important thing I should be doing with my time and resources right now? So if I say yes to something, what am I saying no to by saying yes to that thing? And of course, when you try to please everyone, we all know the only person you're not going to please is yourself. I love this idea of clear as kind. I don't know if you all have heard this quote, but we've all had that nebulous sort of like, ooh, maybe, I don't know, like, you know, that is just, it almost strings us along. It almost feels worse to have someone give us this weird, muddy, non-committed yes, no answer than just being clear, just respectful, prompt, clear. I'd rather you just say no, and it like hurts my feelings less than this weird, muddy kind of maybe yes. You really have to think of it as your time is finite, and your talent and your abilities are limited resources. You have to value your own time and your talent, and remember that these are limited resources. You just can't give out willy-nilly to everybody. And when you're asked something, if you can't give it a definitive yes, then it's a no. If it's not a heck yes, right, it's a no. And this can help to separate the decision from the relationship. Oftentimes we're friends with our coworkers too, and we're even friends sometimes with our managers or our supervisors, but sometimes we just have to separate that decision from that relationship. We can't muddy the waters with that personal relationship. And like I talked about in the beginning, people might be initially disappointed, but they're going to respect you more in the long run. So here's some ways to say no. I think this is really helpful to have these in your repertoire. So you can use the awkward pause. So in this case, you're going to count to 3 in your mind. And in an ideal world, they might just jump in and fill the void, which is fantastic. Sometimes if you pause, they'll feel the need to fill that space and will say something else. Otherwise, count to 3 and then answer. That gives you time to really think without that knee-jerk yes. You can also use the soft no or the no but. So like, I'm busy right now, but maybe we can do next week. You can use the let me check my calendar and get back to you. That's always a good one. So that again buys you time to check, take a moment, think, and really look at your calendar. Can I really commit to this? Is this my big priority? Or, get back to them and say, no, at this time I can't do that. You can also use email auto reply. So if you are really swamped and you are working on a big project presentation, you can use that email auto reply of, hey, I'm busy working on X project. So my emails might be a little slower, and that way people know, hey, okay, Kate, she'll see this when she can. I don't need to keep, sending her more emails and instant messages and all that. She will get back to me when she can. I also added a little email signature line to my old email at the school, and I had a line that said, if you are receiving this outside of business hours, please do not feel the need to respond immediately, because I liked having that. I talked about how I got back to that teacher so quickly, so it's okay to say, I respect your time, so please respect mine. Especially with managers, number 5 is good. So they ask you to do something else and you say, okay, yes, but what should I deprioritize? What project should I take off my plate in order to get this done? And a lot of the times they don't want you to take the other things off your plate. So that makes them rethink it and think, oh, well, maybe I'll ask someone else to do it. You can always use humor. That's always good. Kind of diffuses the tension too. Number 7, the reply with, you are welcome to X, but I'm willing to Y. So maybe someone asks for help with like a lesson or a presentation or a program, and you can say, you're welcome to my notes on that, or you're welcome to my materials that I used for that. I'm willing to let you borrow that, but I can't be the one to help you do it, but you're welcome to use my materials or something like that. And number 8, I can't do it, but person X might be able to help. So not that we're throwing person X under the bus, but sometimes you might have someone else in mind who can help, and that kind of helps like take it off you. Like, I can't do it. That's not really my expertise, but maybe John can help. So it's really this idea of learning to say yes slowly and saying no quickly, which is I know tough for some of us, but it will help you in the long run. And if you follow Arthur Brooks, if you've read his new book with Oprah, about happiness, I've read it too. I love it. And even he says, it's okay if you're overwhelmed, just say no. It's okay. It'll make you happier in the end. Now in life, chaos is inevitable, right? It's just that's life. We can only plan for the unexpected. So something you can do is add a 50% buffer of time, right? Even on your commute to work. Oh, I know, traffic's really bad on Wednesdays. I'm going to leave home early. I think that this presentation will take me maybe 2 weeks to do, but I'll give myself a month to do it. I'll start a little earlier. Always give yourself that buffer, because inevitably life will get in the way. And please make sure to take care of yourself. I think a lot of us realize this in the last few years. A lot of us experience burnout. So you have to take care of yourself, protect your energy, and really, if you can, spend your mornings doing something that energizes you, whatever that means for you. A great breakfast, meditation, a walk with your dog, whatever that looks like. If you start your day off right, that's really going to help you set yourself up for success and enter the day a little calmer. I make time for play. On that same note, a lot of us, we just don't have time for play. We feel like it's a waste of time. But a lot of science backs up this idea that play helps our brains. It's what makes us humans. It's what makes us who we are. So give yourself time for play and exploration and just enjoy yourself. And sleep. I don't have time to tell the story of Jeff, but if you read Essentialism, it talks about Jeff. He was a young guy, 36 years old, and he ended up almost dying, really. His doctor was like, either we got to put you on all this medicine or you need to quit your job. So thank goodness Jeff just quit his job and he was able to bounce back. But we have to protect ourselves, and we have to make time for sleep and not work too hard. We love to work. I think if you're here, you're like me, you love to work. You feel valuable when you are working hard. So really it's a challenge for us to not work hard, but it is possible to do. And really look around you. Think of the company you keep, right? Our environment is very powerful. The people around us really affect us. So I think we all know some attitude thieves or those social vampires that just suck the energy out of you. Please be careful around those people. Try to protect yourself and distance yourself from those kind of people. Conversely, being around positive and successful people will put you in a positive spiral of success. So be very careful. You know, your mom told you, be careful the company you keep, your friends. She was right. So no one succeeds alone and no one fails alone. And really, at the end of the day, it's all about our choices, right? We can only forget. It's like that learned helplessness, right? What makes us human and individuals is that power to choose. But if we don't use it, it will be forgotten. Now, real quick, I know we're almost out of time, but when you're hiring people, it's really important to make sure that you apply these concepts as well. So it's really just, it's better to be understaffed like a lot of us are than be with the wrong person. Have you had that wrong negative person in your group? Then you know how important this is. So really be cognizant of who you're hiring. Take the time to really think, will they fit with the team? And the same with work, with your culture. If you're a manager, you know, be clear with your coworkers, empower your workers, avoid playing politics, you know, are really all the same reasons, the same goals, and check in with your folks to make sure that everyone's making meaningful progress. We're not just ticking the boxes to say we did something. You also can take time for reflection. I used to keep a journal and I would write down, you know, programs I did, what went well, what didn't go well. Then you can go back and look at this and this will save you time later. That, you know, this was a good success. This is what I did wrong. This is what I should avoid for the future. Setting boundaries. Yes. No is a complete sentence, right? Set those boundaries. So I want to jump through some of this just because we're nearly out of time. This idea of time blocking, just really, you know, your mornings, if they're your most productive, block that time off for those projects if possible. Set, you know, static meetings. If that works best for your staff, do that. Block off time in your calendar as you can. And also make time to block off vacation time. I never took days off. Rest is just as important as working, if really not more. You can't do good work if you're not well rested. And this idea of boundaries, really, you know, take the email off the phone, you know, you don't check it after 5 o'clock, you don't check it on weekends. You set those boundaries so people don't walk all over you. And really this idea, you know, you can't concentrate on two things at once, and really ask yourself constantly, what is the most important thing in this very second? So in work, do what you enjoy, and in family life, be completely present. So really my final thought here is just focus is a matter of deciding what things you're not going to do. So thank you all. Sorry I had to rush there a little bit at the end. It is so much good stuff. I highly recommend these 3 books. Please, if you're, you know, if you want to stay and ask me any questions, you're welcome to. Otherwise, just reach out via email. I could teach like a whole day, really workshop on these books. So check them out. They're fantastic. It's Essentialism, The One Thing, and Atomic Habits were the 3 books that I took this from. So thank you all so much for your time. And please feel free to reach out with any questions. And I'm happy to send you more information from the books.
Hey, thank you, Kate. We'll stay on the line here for a couple of minutes, see if we have anything from the audience. That was a lot of stuff there, but it was good. How did you stumble across this particular combination of books and advice and all that? Did you go out seeking stuff, or just you happened to run across it?
Well, it was one of those things where I love nonfiction as much as I love fiction. I also really love kind of these self-help. I hate to say self-help. I know it sounds terrible. The idea of a self-help book, but it was really that COVID time, I feel like, and I found one of them, and I forget which one I started with. But then like I think one referenced another, and so it kind of started that way. Like I read the one and it might have mentioned the other book or the other author. And I kind of just went on a roll with these books. So I don't really remember which one was first. I know that I love Essentialism the most of the three, but really, I think all three go together nicely. But I feel like it was a pandemic thing of just like freaking out and being overwhelmed and being really close to burnout, myself. And then I was kind of seeking this kind of help out.
Yeah, that's so much more professional than binge reading Hardy Boys books.
I read my, fluffy books too. And, I was a teen librarian, so I've a lot of YA. I read a lot of like teen books. So when I could squeeze in some adult nonfiction, I liked too. So
Okay, well, fair enough. Well, everybody, thanks for joining us today. And once again, Kate, thanks for another great presentation. We look forward to having you back very soon, next time with Alex in tow.
oh yeah, I think we're done though, Raymond. I think Alex and I are done for the year with
I thought we
ours.
had one more, but no, I
Mm,
guess not.
I don't think
Okay,
so. I think it might just be Alex on our own, but yeah, Alex and I are done for well, for now. We don't have any planned right now, but
all right, well, y'all put your heads together and we'll get some more stuff on the calendar.
yes, for sure.
Okay, everybody, stay safe out there and come back to us again real soon. We'll see you later.
Thanks everybody.